Hello Flosstube, my name is Deb, I'm the Traveling Stocking Stitcher. In today's episode we're entitling Hello Muddah, Hello Faddah, Here I Am at Camp Granada. Now, I went to Granada, Spain in 2019, and so that's why I chose that particular title. If you're not familiar with the reference, it's an old Alan Sherman song, who was the Weird Al Yankovic of the 1960s, who did song parodies. One of my favorite lines from Camp Granada, a kid writing home to his parents about how much he hates summer camp. Now I don't want that this should scare you, but my bunkmate has malaria. So you gotta appreciate somebody who could rhyme scare you with malaria. So I wanted to stitch things that reminded me of Granada, Spain. And I had a really hard time finding anything that was very literally Granada, Spain, that showed landmarks or buildings or travel posters or what have you. So I kind of had to be a little more interpretive, or things that were representative of the style. And there's a lot of Moorish culture in Spain. The Moors in Morocco and northern Africa invaded southern Spain in like 700 and kicked around there till about the late 1400s, when the Catholics came in, and Queen Isabella and all that kind of stuff. So Ferdinand and Isabella and the Catholics kind of took over the Spanish region. So because of that Moorish influence, I thought, when I saw this particular thing, it's called Moroccan Lanterns, and it really has kind of the vibe of the era. So this is from the Vivsters. They're on Etsy. It's Vivian Powers is the designer, and she just has some really beautiful, she's a graphic designer, I think, by trade, and it has some really beautiful and pretty ingenious designs, I think. And this is one where the color is amazing. Well, I'll just show you. So here it is. It's called Moroccan Lanterns, and this is what it looks like. Now this thing, it just glows. It literally glows. I can't believe that I was stitching with just plain old DMC and not some sort of neon vibrant, and it's not even like really neon-y colors. When you put them together, it's just incredibly beautiful. So here it is, and I'll kind of go through, let you see each one of these close up. I did this on 25 count Granite, and it's mostly 1/1, with the exception of the chains. I did the chains here, and I started out, first of all, I did the top middle. I started, and chain was the first thing I stitched. I think this one over here somewhere. And I started doing, because I never worked on 25 count before, it's pretty small, and I started with 2 strands, and I realized, well, that's not really going to work when I get things close together like that. But for the chains, it actually gave them a little more heft and a little more weight. So I'm glad I made that decision. And then when you get down to the actual lanterns themselves, it was too close quarters to be able to stitch anything but 1/1. And what I did is I stitched the colors first, and then stitched the black around it. It was much easier to do. Now, because it was so tiny and because the black is so close, whenever I would not have a really great stitch, I could just stitch another leg over it or something, because you never could tell. I couldn't find the spots that I screwed up and restitched on. Now, the other place that I did more than one strand, like down, you see on, where's my finger? Here, down here, this purple down here, where things are hanging off the edge. What I did is, because it was not so densely packed next to like the colors and stuff, I just did the full cross with just the end of it, one strand, and then I did just a third strand going the same direction as the final leg of my stitches. So it just gave it a little bit more heft without being too bulky. So I did that in places like the bottom of this orange one here. These little balls in the bottom looked a little thin. Same thing with this little knob here in between the pendant on the green one. But when you stitch these things, you put the colors in and you think, oh, that's pretty. But then you put the black around it, and it's just really, really amazing. I mean, like this blue and white one down here, I mean, they're all beautiful. This red one I thought particularly, even before, I'll show you what it looked like before I even got the black around it. And it was just really, really pretty. So what I'm going to do with this is put the name across the bottom that says Granada, Spain here. And the reason I didn't finish this yet is I'm still on the fence about how I'm going to do that. So I'm going to give you some ideas of what I'm thinking of, and if you think one sounds better than the other, feel free to leave a comment. First of all, I was just going to maybe just put black letters across the bottom, or maybe one, pick one of the colors up here and use that color to put out the name. I didn't want to detract too much from the lanterns themselves. And then I thought, well, maybe what I should do is do sort of an ombre effect. Maybe usually ombre goes darkest to the lightest, and because of the light source of the lanterns, they go bottom, the light's down here and the darker goes up above. So if you think of the letters that are in Granada, most of them don't have stuff down at the bottom. So I'd have to invert the thing. And then I thought maybe the ombre should go in from the side so that there was like a glow in the middle radiating out. So should I just use one color and radiate out, one like blue from light to dark on either side? Should I use each letter be a different color like in the lanterns? And again, is that going to detract too much? And then I started thinking, well, should I make them like lanterns? Should I, have the letter be black with, one of these colors inside, and try to recreate maybe the kind of the crosses and the circles here, or down here, one of these. So I kind of played around with a little bit, some examples of some things I tried on Stitch Fiddle to kind of give you an example of what those should look like. So like I said, I'm kind of letting it sit and thinking about how I want to do it. Yeah, it's so pretty though. It's just gorgeous. I thought maybe I should have a little bit darker gray, but I think it stands out really pretty well. If it were any darker, I think it would maybe even lose some of the black. So I'm very happy with that. Very excited. There are 29,664 stitches in that. Of those, 18,792 are black, or 63% of the design is black. I used Anchor Black, by the way, but it wasn't that tedious because, like I said, it just made the things light up and burst into flames, basically. So, like I said, her designs are just genius. I mean, the way these colors, it glows. I just can't say anything more than it just looks radioactive. It's just amazing. Alright, so next up is also from the Vivsters. This one is called Arabian Nights, and again, maybe not intended to be Spain, but it reminded me of the Alhambra. And it's on 18 count dirty. If you saw my last episode, I talked about my mishap with 16 count dirty, and I had to reorder my fabric. But it's actually going to give me a little more margins on the side, because it is going to, as usual, be a travel poster, an 11 by 14 frame. And across the bottom I found some kind of Arabic looking lettering that I'm going to put Alhambra at the bottom. And about halfway done on this, I was hoping that there's little designs in this archway that were ecru done in 000 blanc or white, and they don't show up real well. You can sort of see that there's a design there, but boy, in person you can barely tell it wasn't worth the effort to do that. I may go with some little darker cream color and try to stitch maybe right over the top of that. I'm not going to frog it out because it would be hard to do, but I think I might just go over it maybe with one strand or something like that, just to give it a little more definition. Or maybe backstitch or something. There's no backstitching in this, either this or the last one I showed you, the Moroccan Lanterns. No backstitching. So I got about halfway done on this one. Let's see, yeah, about 47%. So, does it look exactly like the Alhambra? No, but it kind of invokes that feel. There aren't a lot of, minarets, and the domes, they have these things called mokarab, I'm not going to say it right, but they're almost like stalactites. And it wasn't until I got home, after, I started putting together a photo book, and enlarging the photos, and some of the beautiful designs. I mean, these domes with these intricate geometrical prisms, and just intricate carvings, and really, really beautiful stuff. But again, they're way up on the ceiling, you don't see them. So the interior of the domes, you don't see a lot of exterior of the domes. I don't know how they cover them up, but seems like it's got that feel. The Alhambra, if you're not familiar with it, is it was once a city, a fortified city that like over 1,000 people lived in. It had like a 1.5 mile rampart and 30 towers, and there is the Nasrid palaces, which is the portion that has a lot of Islamic architecture, and it's got these, like I said, these hanging stalactites and the intricate carvings and Arabic sayings. In Arabic or in Islamic culture, you can't portray people or living things in art because that's God's work to create that. So everything is either letters or geometrical shapes and patterns and those kinds of things. So you see a lot of that, but not so much depictions of human beings or animals or things like that. And some of the designs, they actually intentionally make errors or include gaps or something because they aspiring to perfection was considered blasphemous. So they would, intentionally leave things out or make mistakes, tiny mistakes and that kind of thing, just to not be perfect, which I think my stitching probably could use a little of that influence as well. So when I make mistakes, I don't worry about it too much. So a fun fact, or at least an interesting fact, Washington Irving, who wrote Rip Van Winkle and The Legend of Sleepy Hollow, he once lived in the Alhambra and actually served as the U.S. ambassador to Spain in the 1840s. He lived in Alhambra in like 1829. And then he wrote Tales of the Alhambra and made it very popular. And probably how he got appointed to the ambassador of Spain. So, another interesting fact about Washington Irving, I call myself the Traveling Stocking Stitcher. Lately I've been focusing on travel stuff, but I also do a lot of Christmas stockings. Did you know that it was Washington Irving that did a dream sequence in one of his stories that featured St. Nicholas soaring over the treetops in a flying wagon? And that was the first reference to Santa flying in a sleigh. So that's thanks to him. I didn't know that before I started this. So the one thing I did find that actually shows buildings and landmarks of Granada, Awesome Pattern Studio, I've mentioned them before. They have a lot of cities that they offer that have kind of a collage of different landmarks from each city in there. And they really do a really good job of what they've got on here. So I've always been really impressed with what they have. So I went through and did most of the stuff, because a lot of it is up there. And then there are a few things that I like to customize a little bit, things that I remember that are special to me or look like there's a space for it, and I could put that in there or tweak up some colors. So this is what I've got. And I'll kind of do a little rundown of what's on here. Of course, we have the Alhambra, and that's up on top of the hill, which seems appropriate. I don't have the Sierra Nevadas in here, so that's going to be added in there. They are kind of bluish, that color. And then across the side over here, off on a hill on the other side from the Alhambra, is a place called Generalife, which is general life. It looks like it when it's spelled, but in Spanish, it's Generalife, and it's the gardens where they would go and spend time. The sultans would go spend time in the summertime where it was cooler up in the hills. And what else we've got here? We've got this building here is in Plaza Nuevo with the little pointy things on it. This is the Royal Chancellery. It's the Supreme Court of the Justice of Andalusia, the region of Spain that Granada is in. And then we've got, this is the cathedral. This is Catedral de Santa Maria Encarnacion, was built in 1523. So that's that there. So that really kind of looks like that. Down here, this is in the Alhambra as well. It's Charles V had a palace built, and it's square on the outside, and then the inside it's got a circular area with, there's no ceiling on it, no roof on it. And so it, I'll show you some pictures of what that looks like. So it's, so you've got the Moorish influence up here, and then next to it you've got when the Catholics came in, they put their print on things and stamp on things. Over on the side here, the area that we stayed was more the Grand Via street area. That's they almost designed it to look more like Paris, and they built a lot of the buildings in the late 1800s, early 1900s. So they've got balconies. They've got a lot of wrought iron windows covering. They've got this is trying to be a stone balcony here that I'm working on trying to make there, because they've got a lot of the I don't know if it's Beaux Arts or art, not quite Art Nouveau, but kind of a little more representation. And they even put in like a street light here that has a bouquet of flowers on it, and exactly, I mean, I saw this in Granada. They do a really good job. They can't have visited all these cities because there's like hundreds of them that they have on their site. And then the purple trees. I put in a lot of these purple trees anywhere I had a chance. This was supposed to originally be yellow or green, and there's a bunch of them here. And when we went to, particularly when we were in the Alhambra, and it was a beautiful time of year. It was end of March, and trees were in bloom and flowers were there. Irises. I was trying to put some irises in here. I don't know how to chart those with and make them so small. But the trees, these beautiful purple trees, they call them Judas trees. Allegedly, it's supposed to be the tree in which Judas hung himself after turning and betraying Christ. But it's probably more likely that it's a bad French interpretation of Tree of Judea, which is probably where the trees originally originated from. But they were really beautiful. So put a bunch of purple trees in there. And let's see, what else am I working on? These guys down here in the Alhambra, there is a fountain. And it's the courtyard of the lions, they call it. And there's a fountain with a bunch of lions around the perimeter. So I put a couple of lions here spitting water out of their mouths to kind of represent that. And there's some more green that has to go in here. I'm not quite done with this. This fountain down here is probably, the top of it looks like the fountain in Bib Ramla Plaza. But the bottom part with these little shoots of water looks a little bit more to me like the Isabella Cattolica is the plaza, and there's a fountain there, and it's dedicated to Queen Isabella, who was the one who gave Columbus the permission to go search for the New World. But the townsfolk like Columbus a lot more than they like Isabella, because apparently she kind of strong-armed the townsfolk and made them build the Nina the Pinta and the Santa Maria. Didn't give him any recompense for it, and she also borrowed some money for his expedition from a guy, and then short time afterward kicked him out of the country through when they expelled the Jews from Spain, and began the whole Spanish Inquisition. So she's not a real popular person in Spain necessarily. So at least people in Granada weren't real thrilled with her. But that's kind of what that fountain looks like to me. And what else? Oh, the street signs. All the street signs are shaped kind of like this, and they have the street name on it. They've got a little picture of a pomegranate, because in Spain the word Granada is pomegranate. So that's kind of the symbol of Granada, Spain. So the street we stayed on was Zapatos, so I'm trying to fit that in here somehow. I think I might try to sneak it in here. I might have to make it a little smaller. I don't know if I can fit the whole name in there and stuff, but that's where I'm thinking I'll put that over there. This archway over here, they have a lot of cypress trees that are almost topiary. They're huge things, and they cut them into shapes, and they make a lot of archways. They make a lot of walkways, lining the walkways, or crenellations on the top. So yeah, I've made this green the archway was kind of here, but I made it green to match that, my recollection of it. And so, like, they had a bunch of cars in the original design, and I mentioned in my last video that, I don't go to places to see cars parked on the street. So I've taken those all out and put in the lions and I was going to put maybe the street sign down here somewhere, but I think I'll try to fit it up on the house. And so I don't know if I'll put anything else down here. That is Granada. And these I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do with these. Like I said, I've got lots and lots of them. And I'll probably put the name at the bottom and just kind of a small script, or maybe at the top or something. But I'll figure something out. And then just throw in a couple of these. I have shown this over a year ago when I first bought started Flosstube, my first ever episode of Flosstube, I think it was. Maybe it was the second one when I showed this one. This is John Clayton's The Alhambra. You notice it's not in a frame. It's behind here. So this is The Alhambra. And I have plans. I talked about in that video what my plans were of how I was going to finish these guys off. But, you know, people talk about how cross-stitching is one set of skills or one particular hobby and finishing is another. Well, I've also found the third thing that you have to do and step in that process is then hanging on the wall. And those last two skills are not my strong points. So here's another one that's a John Clayton that it took me almost a year, but it's now not very well in a frame, but I think this frame works really well. And this one's called Spanish Arch, and I'm still seeing some gaps on the side. I think I might try to go through and try to lace it and see if I can get a little tighter than what I have here. But I can get close a little bit so you can see it. Oops. It's not supposed to be on there. Sorry. Oh, there it is. But it's so excited when I found this frame. I thought, oh, that's going to fit perfectly. And if I can just stretch it a little bit tighter and get rid of that gap on the side, it will be good. So that is John Clayton's Alhambra. So I usually do like a seal of approval shout out of somebody that typifies something of the theme, but I haven't really seen anybody stitching anything either Spanish influence or Moroccan or anything like that. So, but as close as it comes is eCrafting in Colorado, who did Ottoman tiles, or was working on Ottoman tiles, and I think that was probably my first introduction of the Vivsters. And now I have all kinds of Vivsters, not only the two that I'm doing, I've got some others that I have as well that I'm planning on doing. A couple that I don't have but are similar in vein to this they have Moroccan doors and windows in both a blue or a cool colorway and a red warm colorway. And I talked in my Ireland video about my love for doors in Ireland, but I didn't see a lot of Moroccan doors, so I don't know if I'll do that one right away. But they do have a couple other designs that I'm going to use either for other Spanish cities that I went to. We went to Seville, we went to Granada, Spain, and then we went to Portugal that also has a lot of tiles and that kind of stuff. So they have Portuguese orange trees. I got that one. That one I think reminds me of Seville, so when I get around to doing a Seville video, you might see this one being stitched up. A couple of other things that I have seen that have a kind of a Spanish influence along these same lines. Persian mandala tiles. I have this particular design from X Counting the Stars. X is the name of the shop on Etsy. I haven't started this one, but I think it's really a pretty design, and it's kind of in the same vein of stuff. Another one is Star Map, and this was from Tinsel Cross Stitch, and again I think this is very, very evocative of the same feel. Oh, and I didn't mention, I normally wear an outfit or something that has something to do with things, and this is as close as I can come. This shirt looks like Moroccan tiles. I didn't get it in Spain. Here's what it is. Tinsel Cross Stitch also has this amethyst ornament, which I think was also a very pretty example of kind of that same influence. I haven't stitched it yet, but it's in my stash. And another one that I was going to maybe use, it might still sneak into one of these designs. The name, like on the Arabian Nights, I've got some Arabic script, but I don't know how. On the ends I might need a little bit extra design, and so I've got cornflower and gold mosaic tile from Stitch Sweetly on Etsy, and so I thought that might look nice on either end, because you see those kinds of geometric tiles and shapes a lot in Spain. Another one that I'm going to do probably for the town of Ronda I mentioned. I've not found anything that has anything to do with Ronda, but kind of the blue and white tiles are very common there, and so azulejo is the Spanish word for tile, and so This is from Estrella Fortuna is the Etsy website. So this is a pretty one as well. I think I'd like to do that one. And Peppermint Purple also has Moroccan tiles. They have a Moroccan tile sale that you can join. And I have the pattern for this. I just haven't gotten around to stitching it as well. A little bit on the fence on what I want to do for colors on that one. So either I'd like to keep it all straight blue and white, more traditional, or I don't know, maybe I'll do some different colors. I don't know. And as far as regular shout-outs go, I have not been watching much Flosstube at all, I'm sorry to say. So, not even the usual people I normally watch. I just have not been watching Flosstube or TV much in general. So, probably the time of the year, spring, got other stuff to do than sit and watch TV inside. So we're actually gotten rid of the snow, even though it seems like it snows, and then it was 80 degrees for like 4 days, and then it snowed again, and then so we've been going back and forth here in Minnesota with weird weather, but hopefully we'll get nice again. As for my next episode, I'm not quite sure what I'm going to have to show you. In a couple of weeks we are leaving for Croatia and Slovenia, and we're going to stop in Amsterdam on the way home. So not sure how much stitching I will be able to get done. We're actually going as part of a tour, so maybe I can stitch on the bus. We haven't really done a tour before, but I might have time to do that. I'm going to take along some stuff, I think, from Denmark, because I've got a Copenhagen travel poster and another Denmark thing that have not a lot of colors and 14 count aida, real easy to stitch on the road and stuff. So I think maybe you'll see an episode about Copenhagen. Maybe you'll see information about Croatia and Slovenia. I don't want to stitch for the actual place I'm going till I get back, because I like to customize things, or things, once you see it, different things speak to you a little bit differently. So next time you may see that's what I'll be talking about. I want to thank you for joining me. You can find me, like I say, on Instagram. I'm the traveling 1L _ stocking _ stitcher, because I do Christmas stockings, but I have been taking a little break to work on travel things. But when the snow starts to fly again, not too soon I hope, I'll probably start stitching some Christmas stuff again. Well, thank you for stopping by. It was so good to talk to you today. As always, I always enjoy my little Flosstube conversations that we have, and would love to hear comments from you. The one thing that's really kind of weird about Flosstube is that people watch it like in the first couple of days and they leave comments, but then it stops. And if they watch a video even months later, they would never make a comment. It's the oddest thing. It's like they only, like there's a shelf life or something. But, don't be afraid if you're watching an old episode or something. My video or anybody's video, people like to hear from you. That's one of the most fun parts of Flosstube. So don't be afraid to leave a comment just because it's not fresh. I don't care that you're watching it later. I know there's a lot of content out there. I just told you I was not watching much Flosstube myself. So you're not going to out yourself that you didn't get to my stuff right away. I'm not offended. It's okay. So, like I said, if you feel like liking, if you feel like subscribing, if you feel like leaving a comment, that'd be great. Thanks so much again for coming, and we will see you next time. Adios from Granada, Spain.